Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello. Hello there, everyone. My name is Mr. Staleman, your resident sleeper, and I'm here with an hour of your time dedicated to the Limbus Company, a game that I've been dedicating my time to in my off hours whenever I get the chance to just sit down and relax. Now, I'm going to be doing something here with Limbus Company. I'm going to be playing a couple of mirror dungeons and generally just talking about my experience with the game so far. I've played, well, on Steam, I have 6 hours listed, and on my phone, I have probably an additional 6 to 10. And this is a This is a step in the right direction for Project Moon and the Library of Ruina team, but there are some issues with the mechanics that are just it 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 is frustrating to play the game sometimes because I had been waiting for the game to come out last year over the summer for a beta test, which never happened. And then it was supposed to come out in December, and they postponed it to February. And it really feels like there are there's a lack of polish on certain sections of the game, but the parts that do have the polish necessary shine. They are brilliant. So let me boot my game up here. Hopefully, everyone out there listening to my sonorous voice is enjoying themselves with the game. Hmm. Okay. Just making sure that the levels on this thing are fine. Okay. Let's switch on over. So, as I've mentioned earlier, I've played this game for a while now, and I have a couple of thoughts about the gotcha system in the game, about um, the mechanics of the game. There are a lot of things to talk about. So, like going to my centers here, as you can see, I have a number of 3 stars. I will admit that the I haven't spent money in a way that matters. I purchased the battle pass for transparency's sake. I am interested in seeing Project Moon succeed, and if this is their revenue stream that will allow them to create other pieces of media that I will enjoy, I don't mind shelling $11 for that. But I haven't used that. The benefits in the battle pass are not something that have given me the benefits that I currently have with my team. One thing to recommend for those that are getting into the Limbus company, if you haven't drawn a party that is strong, um, the game has a very the game has a provision available for those that want to re-roll their accounts, where you can rapidly re-roll from one account to another over your phone. And once you've found an account that you like with identities for the characters that you care about on that account, you can transfer your account and merge it with your Steam account, which is quite generous in the grand scheme of things. I think that Project Moon has been quite generous so far in the 3 days, Sunday, yes, 3 days that the game has been out. We've received maybe three different tickets involved with the game that allow us to pull from our extraction points here. Currently, I have Gregor in all of his wonderful glory, and I'm building up the lunacy necessary to continue drawing from this extraction zone, because even though I have the tier for this, redrawing a tier is beneficial if you want to acquire the thread necessary to boost your sinners. There's an entire process going on with the leveling up of different identities, and you want to have a spread of identities available for dealing with the mirror dungeons, which is the bulk of the game, really. I think that aside from the story elements, the bulk of the game is going to be found within the mirror dungeons. The mirror dungeons, I don't understand why they lock it behind 2 chapters full of stuff that you need to go through before you get to what is essentially like the big drawing point, the big selling point of the game. I'm sort of overselling it here. Let me pull it up. So you get, a free entry every... One fun thing is that Project Moon made our weekly amount for the dungeons. The week started today with them. They set some things up, some daily XP pass things for the battle pass up, which was impossible to succeed in because we were going to restart the week today. And I had been saving all of my dungeons for the stream, but I just realized that the weekly pass bonus that I could have acquired don't worry about it. Okay, so the big draw of the mirror dungeon is that it plays a lot like Slay the Spire, in the sense that you acquire artifacts that affect your characters in one way or another, and it allows for more tactical team building when you get into the swing of things. So for example, after dealing damage with a pride or single coin skill, self-apply 1 attack up and 1 defense up. I think that this is permanent. It doesn't say that it reduces this application. This makes me, with this benefit in mind, makes me think, okay then, I have a couple of identities with pride attacks and single coin skills. I am going to want to prioritize using those identities in the beginning of my dungeon run because I have this artifact within I'm picking this artifact to start with. Or the Little and 2B Naughty plushie. Deal 10% damage and take 20% less damage against enemies with bleed. Allies with pride skills deal 20% damage and take minus 30% damage against enemies with bleed. If I had a bleed team, if I had a couple of identities that could consistently output bleed onto an enemy, this would be perfect for that team. And so on. You get the idea. It allows you to plan out what kind of starting build you want to go with, and since you're fighting artifacts across your dungeon run, it alters the way that you look at the identities that you have available. So I'm going to go with Late Bloomer's Tattoo because I have an idea of what a consistent starting team is going to be with the identities that I have available. So my starting team that I've been picking for these dungeons have been Sinclair, Rodion, and Yisang. Now for Yiseng, I use my Blade Lineage Salsu, and the reason why I'm picking this one, just so that you have a thought process of what I'm going through here. For one, this is a pride skill. So the benefit that we're acquiring with our artifact is already, that condition is already there. It's already met. Plus, it's a single coin skill, which you can tell at the top left here. Because it's a single coin skill and a pride skill, I don't know if it doubles up. I probably need to pay attention to the actual dungeon when we're doing the run to find out, but this is something to think about, right? The heel turn and the flame thrust, they're not... Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed my deep cut on Vagant. And I'm glad to still be making content. I have a video that I've been sort of chewing at for a bit on Our Darker Purpose, and I am excited to release it. Release it at some point. I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things. Streaming at least this game for an hour for the company that gave me the impetus to, or that gave me the motivation to start working on content again. This is sort of a callback to that. It's a lot less overhead on me and a lot less pressure on me to make things. This is sort of like a chill, nonchalant sort of affair. But thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed the deep cut. I put a lot of work into Vagant, and it means a lot to me. But I'm getting sidetracked. The flank thrust, it's a strong move. It's their signature. Typically, their skill 3s are going to be signature moves. Yeah, we're going to move on to Rodion, Kurokumo, henchwoman. She has a pride skill of her own, which is a single skill. So again, we're going to have to see if it doubles up on abilities, but she also has the sharpened blade. So she's taking advantage of the one costs, or the one coin skill effect of our artifact. And as you can tell by the choices here, Sinclair's Blade Lineage Salsu is going to be much the same, with our pride skill being a single coin skill. This is something of a consistency with the Blade Lineage identities. I still haven't unlocked Otis. I am looking forward to unlocking her because she's sort of the last one that I'm missing, along with a couple of Kurokumo identities, but that's neither here nor there. So we go through this. Now we're confirmed, right? We confirm their egos. Obviously, we don't have access to the stuff later. We'll gain access to the later identities. Something that I've been thinking about, considering that there are a number of egos that are yet to be discovered, you could see a couple of them are inside of the battle pass itself. I'm actually close to unlocking the first premium ego in Rodion's ego for fourth, or for the, is it Flaming Butterfly? Flame Girl? Matchstick Girl? I don't know exactly what the name of the abnormality is. It's the fire one. That ego is, it's a premium ego, and I'm hoping that Project Moon releases those premium egos to the general public later, and that it's not something that you have to pay for in order to retain, because I would really hate to have the game be pay to win in that regard. So let me confirm here. Now, they have synergies in their egos in that all of them generate the all of them have skills whose typing, their syn types, generate ego, or generate the resources necessary for them to cast their ego skills. And that's super important when you're dealing with the dungeon, because you want to have those emergency skills available to deal with clashes that are not going to be in your favor. Generally speaking, Salsu is going to be the easiest one to generate once you have maybe three or once you have 4 or 5 teammates going that can consistently bring in your green and your red skills. Uh, but again, that's neither here nor there. Okay, so this is where the Slay the Spire element comes in. You're presented with this track, and you're supposed to go through it, selecting the path that you want to take to reach the end of the location. Simple enough. I'm going to choose the middle path because honestly, I think that this element is interesting. Oh no. Oh no. Um, do I lose the? Yeah. Oh, hopefully I didn't lose the free. I completely fumbled selecting the. Oh, and it used the weekly. But oh no. Oh, that's awful. I should have just gone through with it. I completely fumbled selecting the identities. The start of the turn, apply 2 damage up, prioritizes allies with less skills. Okay, at the start of the turn, inflict 4 rupture. When activating Gluttony Absolute, inflict 2 rupture at the start of combat. At the start of the combat phase, if all enemies have burn, I don't have anyone with burn, so it's probably going to be Crown of Roses or Bloody Gadget. I think Crown of Roses is going to be better if I use Gregor. I'm going to go with Bloody Gadget. That is heartbreaking. I never confirmed them. Oh. It hurts. It hurts so much. Oh, I was so preoccupied with just talking. But it's fine. It's fine. We don't take those, but it's fine. I had already saved some people for this. This is adding a person, upgrading a person, healing. So one important thing to think about when planning your route, that healing node over here at the corner, it doesn't revive units. Something that I learned the hard way when running the dungeon, you do not get a revive if you lose a unit. That unit is gone. So one thing that I've been, maybe I'm wondering this aloud. I think that it may be a bug. It may not be. Blade Lineage Salsu, or Blade Lineage Duder here, Yisang. He is a very underwhelming tier 3 identity. Compared to his 7th association counterpart, he lacks in health, being weaker than the 7 association counterpart. He lacks in speed, his speed being 3 to 7 versus the 7 association being 5 to 7, so it's more consistently faster. And the abilities on them, both of them are supportive in nature. I would say that the 7 association wins out on his passive elements. I prefer to use Blade Lineage almost entirely because he has the resources that I need to consistently generate pride, and he has pride and wrath or lust, the red one. He has those consistent resource generation methods within his kit, which makes me use him more. But he's an inferior identity even though he's tier 3. There's weird balancing going on with the game right now that I don't know. Again, it probably would have benefited Project Moon if they had beta tested the game before it shipped the way that it did. So here we are with the dungeon. Obviously, nothing has really changed yet. We can see that our benefit um, for the artifact has benefited Rodion here because she has a Wrath skill. And I think that she is the only one in our group that has Wrath skills available. So let's just get through this real quick. This probably works. And that is why I picked Sinclair's skill there. His blue skill is dominant in taking out an enemy unit. Not only do you apply bleed, you apply paralysis. Now, paralysis in Library of Ruina was strong because it would reduce the speed die of an enemy. Either reduce the speed die of an enemy or it would low roll the move that they were performing. So if they have a skill that ranges from 1 to 8, a paralysis would trigger and the skill would automatically roll the 1, which is very strong for controlling the enemy. Obviously, he only has access to that skill once. It's his signature skill once you've uptied it to level 3, which is what I'd recommend if you are going through these dungeons. Uptie all of your identities that you want to have available for the dungeon to level 3 because it is paramount to have access to that third skill and gain in the, not variety, gain in the utility of using additional skills. Now, once you've completed a stage, depending on the fight that you're on, you can gain access to the screen where you're able to level up one of your peoples. It's important to know how to distribute your powers across your group. I generally distribute it 1 per because having a balanced team is beneficial for dealing with later stages, because as you saw within the selection screen when we went with the combat, the enemies were level 6. And they're going to increase in difficulty, and with that increased difficulty, that increases the amount of damage that they're able to deal with their attacks, and lower level people are obviously going to have a harder time defending against those higher level attacks. Now, if I had a Teth Ego, I would select it here and put it in. Obviously, I do not, so there is nothing that goes in this spot. I continue, bam, and so on and so forth. It's a relatively simple process, but the game increases in complexity when it starts introducing the abnormality fights, which allow you to select how you target the dice. And that would be where I start to create my larger criticisms of the game, where I introduce a lot of the problems, the needling elements that I've been experiencing with the game. Let's go with something like this. See? Very easy. Especially with Rodion, who has hard-hitting attacks. Introducing that Lust skill means that I can guarantee that on my first turn, I am not in a bad state. It's very important to be pushing your advantages in the early stage so that you can gain access to ego, gain access to the resources that you need, and gain access to additional speed dice so that you can start hammering the enemy with what you need. So now we're here with Wishing Cairn. I have access to the second ego that Yi Sang has. So I'm going to select it here, put it on there. We get to keep going, right? I'm going to want access to an additional unit, and I'll probably explain more of why I'm going to want to do this once I get there. So this strength here, right? It guarantees that I'm getting the fights, that I'm winning the fights when I get into them. And just like that, I have nothing to worry about, so it's just about finishing the fight off. Okay, so now here's the second interesting thing about the dungeon run. You have control over your starting party, but you don't have control over who you get to next add onto your party. The deck draws from 3 sinners at random and presents you with those 3 sinners, and you have the selection to choose one of those 3 sinners, which is why the gacha element is emphasized here. You want to have a variety of identities available to deal with whatever dungeon you're going to be put up against. And because you want to have the variety necessary, or the diversity necessary to deal with a plethora of different options, having a wider toolbox to deal with an enemy is going to be the name of the game, or what is ostensibly the biggest marketing point for Limbus Company aside from the story elements. So I don't have any identity for Dawn, and I don't have any identity for Heathcliff, but I do have one that pairs perfectly with this group of sword saints that we have available in Ryoshu. And here we have the 7-section Ryoshu. This identity is phenomenal, okay? We have it. So we have Rupture, relatively low strength ability, but then we start moving up to Upper Slash, which gains skill, it gains damage against units with slash fragility, which she can apply with her 3rd skill. And her 3rd skill, if you get a positive coin flip on the first move of her swash attack, it applies additional stacks of slash fragility upon each hit, and the first attack deals 5 slashes within the first hit. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful move. And the passive ability is that she increases your boost slash damage if you can connect 4 green blips in your line at once. She pairs very well with the Gregor, the General G Manager Gregor, because G Manager Gregor has a lot of green units, or green nodes. Sinclair, Blade Lineage Sinclair has a lot of green nodes. And now you're starting to form the team building that you'd need to deal with whatever comes your way. And luckily enough, I've added her onto our group. And we're going to have access to her passive ability, even though she's not able to join in our initial fight here.
이번에는 누굴 베어버리면 되는 거야?
I mean, this is a simple fight to run. See, the game practically plays itself in these early elements, or in these early rounds, because the game wants to sort of give you the ability to build up to your later fighting capability.
죄를 새겨주겠어. 흉터의 결과여.
역시 모르네.
Okay, at the start of the battle, gain 1 ego resource for every sin affinity. This is really strong for generating early ego. After defeating an enemy by using a skill, gain 1 ego resource of that skill. This is just a worse version of this, because you have to kill the enemy, and by the time that you're starting to kill enemies, you've already ramped up enough ego to start having something in your back pocket. This gives you a foundation to start building a safe retaliatory maneuver. And again, I have no burn enemies, or no burn egos, no burn identities, so this is a non-starter. Okay, so we have Don, which we found last time, didn't select. We have Ishmael, which I don't have an identity for. I do have an ego for. And then Gregor, who is my favorite character. We're going with Gregor. Plus, as I was talking earlier about when we were talking about builds, they have hack, which means that the green pips that we want to build up for our Ryoshu's passive to take effect, already there. And we want to be combining our green pips as much as possible, because they start healing our group whenever we start winning clashes. All right. I think that the best course of action would probably be to go to the middle. This would give us access to this would give us access to a level up. I don't think that we need it if we're going to get it from this node here. We could always do... Well, actually, we could do this.
벼릴 수 있는 기회겠죠?
Excuse me. Go with this, go with this, go with this.
망설임이 없도록.
그렇게 무르진 않네.
Is beautiful. Rupture, dominate, bad clear.
배는 맛은 있는 편이 좋은데. 역시 모르네.
배워냈어.
역시 모르네.
And now, remember, that +2 or +3 that we're generating with the artifact is going to be now shuffling around between Gregor and Rodion, because Gregor has Lust skills. Was it Lust? Right? Give me a second to level him up here and make sure. Yes, Lust skills. So we did get the boost that we were looking for. I don't think that anyone has taken any damage. We could just potentially go here, or we could go to this node and acquire maybe an artifact or something along those lines, do a check, and then level up here, which I think sounds like the better play, because I'm going to be wasting a healing node otherwise. how does this compare to Library of Ruina? I personally find Limbus Company in the current state that it's in to be more fun for me than Library of Ruina. In the early stages of Library of Ruina, this game is this game has a lot less pain points to its combat than Library of Ruina does. In the later stages of Library of Ruina, a lot of the card management and energy shuffling that you're creating, a lot of the deck lists that you're creating, those get very unwieldy very quickly. And if you saw within the review that I wrote, where I sort of obscured a lot of the images available, by the end of the game, you're managing like 4 or 5 dices with cards onto the enemy's 4 or 5 dices and their cards, and managing what's clashing with what correctly, because if you don't manage the clashes onto something correctly, you could potentially lose a person out of like hubris or something along those lines. It's awful. It's an awful feeling to have. Plus the like speed die was an unwieldy way of doing what the coins here are currently doing. The coin here is either you flip heads and you acquire your bonus, or you get tails and you don't. It's a lot simpler. It's a lot easier to deal with. Obviously, because it's a mobile game, it's a lot easier to understand and go through. One of the big pain points that I have with the game actually is that it doesn't have something that I appreciated out of Library of Ruina within a particular context, which is in regular human fights, you don't have access to targeting an enemy's die to prevent them from attacking a staggered unit, which is something that's very important to deal with when we're talking about the later chapters in the base Limbus Company game, because I'm separating the story from the mirror dungeons here. The story, the human fights where you're just like creating a line with your nodes in order to deal skills and the attacks are automatically targeted, that has a lot of like it's quick, it's fast paced, it's kinetic, it feels nice to just play. But when a unit is staggered and you see that that unit is staggered, you might as well cut your losses and assume that that person is gone, because you have no real countermeasure available within those human fights to prevent the enemy from dogpiling that staggered unit. And that feels awful. That feels horrendous, because now all of a sudden you've just lost a core component of your group. Your chain gets smaller, right? And you didn't do anything wrong. There wasn't anything that you could have done in order to combat against this, if you get what I'm saying. Hopefully I'm answering your question as to how this compares. I would say that Library of Ruina at the moment obviously is a more complete experience. Highly recommend it. Changed my life. And I don't say that lightly. But Limbus Company has a lot more of that kinetic feel that I would feel in like mid-table Library of Ruina, early to mid-game Library of Ruina, where it isn't so hectic to deal with. Blood seeps out of their hands and feet. It appears that they change sides before the bottom one loses too much blood. I mean, remove the brambles, right? It's not so... the response here, the loss here isn't too terrible. I went with my gut, and my gut was wrong there. It happens. So that's an abnormality fight. I'm glad that you found me through the Library of Ruina review. I think that's how a lot of people have found me, because it's my like highest rated video. A part of my streaming Limbus Company is because I know that a lot of people have found me through that review. And this is probably this Limbus Company stream that I'm doing, and that I'm going to try to be somewhat consistent with, is going to is going to catalog a lot of my thoughts with the game because it didn't have a beta testing process, which I would have wanted to record over a stretch of time. I'm just gonna give my raw thoughts while I play the game because I am enjoying the mirror dungeons. They're just they're it's Project Moon, and they lack a lot of polish with their initial releases of things. We've seen this with Library of Ruina, with the like book customization system. It's gonna have its growing pains. The game has been out for like 3 days, so I can't complain too much. So here we are. So here, now that I have like an actual example of what I'm talking about here, I can connect all of my moves, right? But I don't have the ability to connect my clashes with my clashes, you know? If let's say, for example, this person here wanted to target Sinclair and Sinclair was staggered, I have no way of making it so that I can use my speed die for Rodion to block and force a clash with this dude here. But I can do that in the abnormality fights, because the abnormality fights play a lot like that, like Library of Ruin, where you get to, you know, pick and choose how you're going to spread out your attacks. Which is why one thing that I have been hoping that they'll accept some point in the future when it comes to criticism of the game is that it doesn't have to be something extensive, because I know that this main way of playing the game is how mobile users are going to interact with the game, and it would be unwieldy as a mobile user myself to have to individually select nodes and move them around over and over. If you can just interject on an enemy's move, if you have the ego necessary to do so you can target your egos now if they're not AoE, or since there's no defensive skill in the game, you actually click on the portrait of your character and you get a defensive skill. Allow me to use this defensive skill to purposefully taunt an attack. I don't know, it's like sitting right there. You just have to, you know, say, hey, I'm doing a block maneuver, I'm doing a counter maneuver, I'm going to get in the way of you attempting to stagger my enemy. It would make sense, thematically speaking, because this is supposed to be like a ragtag group of people coming together to like overcome adversity and among other things. It's right there. Just saying, Project Moon, if you're listening, please just listen.
배는 맛은 있는 편이 좋은데. 역시 모르네.
And this right here, these combat sequences are what I like a lot about Limbus Company, because everything is so dynamic. You're hearing like the positive clicks of your coins flipping heads over and over again, and you feel that kinetic energy that they were trying to capture in Library of Ruina, where Library of Ruina feels like a tactician getting all of their pawns in a row, getting all of the unit moves in order, and then letting it out in one big burst. You just have to... this does a lot of that, like, calculation, all of that calculus for you, and then afterwards you get to enjoy the spectacle that is your units beating the absolute crap out of the opposing enemy. It feels very nice. It feels kinetic.
역시 모르네.
Now here is where the game is going, where I can explain my grievances to the best of my ability, because this is where the game is really good. These fights right here. So here are abnormalities, right? there's no little ball here. Why is that? Well, you're no longer making a line. You're dragging your move, and you're selecting a move, like Library of Ruina. Wow, they've really innovated on this, right? But you feel it in the human fights, how much more, not engaging, but how much more in control of the battlefield you are when you have the ability to just say, all right, I have 6 units attacking me. Gregor is getting attacked twice. Sinclair is getting attacked twice. Let me use my people to defend against the moves that they can, right? Bam. This person is clashing somewhere else. He's gonna hit Gregor regardless. It's fine. You are getting hit by you, which is gonna be doing 7. This works. This works. And then you are getting hit here. Obviously, I don't have the speed in order to attack everyone yet, but that's fine. I don't need the speed yet. I'm gonna generate them through clashes, right? Oh no.
다음번에는 뵐 수 있겠죠?
Bam, easy peasy. There's a lot of benefit to that. Oh, by the way, this is something that I found out through scrolling through the forums. If you want to learn more about the abnormalities that you're fighting in a given fight, apparently the story that you can find is located in this section here. So another thing that I would want Project Moon to do for people like me who didn't notice that this section was there, they can add a tab inside of the menu and allow you to read the stories. A lot of the people that enjoy Library of Ruina and Lobotomy Core enjoy it for the abnormality material. And they're just hiding the bulk of that information. I don't know who this person is. I don't know what this abnormality is about, but I'm going to find out probably off stream because I'm currently, talking to you all. It's right there, right? This is supposed to be something that they're going to build, that they're going to add more to in the coming patches that they release, because this is a live service. They wanted to do something similar to Lobotomy Core, where the more that you fought a particular abnormality, the more that you would acquire benefits towards fighting that enemy, which would allow for that accumulation of experience to be tangential and mechanical in some way. Feels really nice. At the moment, I don't feel it because, as it says here, we're lacking data. That's just not something that they're doing just yet. And the targeting system that they have available, it doesn't exist because at the moment, there aren't, aside from the abnormality end fights that we have available, the bosses, we don't have any other unit locations to select within these abnormality fights. It's always gonna be like the body, But let's get back into it. You're getting hit by you, so this. You're getting hit by no one, so I can take this. You are getting hit by you. I can do this, and then I can do this to eliminate an enemy. So one thing that I really like about the clash system within the game, that is, honestly, it's a lot better than how clashes are handled in Library of Ruina, is that your skills head count determines the amount of times that you can clash against an enemy. So if you have a skill with a low amount of coins, you gain the drawback of clashing with a skill that has a low amount of coins is that if you lose your clash once, that's it. You're done. Which it can benefit you if you're trying to conserve the amount of SP that you lose within a given fight, because the more times that you're clashing against the opponent, the higher the end damage will be. So you might want to cut things off early if you start to generate too many clashes within a given fight.
흉터의 결과야.
I lost my train of thought. I rambled a bit there. Look, I was only supposed to go for an hour. I thought that this game was going to be relatively quick, but I've been sitting here explaining a lot of the game, and I'm feeling the workday on my mind right now. So this is I should have, well, I wouldn't have gone here anyway. This is a ego fight. This is where we would or not an ego fight, an artifact fight. If we went through here, we could have probably gotten an artifact to add onto our group, onto our little thing here, and, you know, gained additional bonuses for our group. Alright, it's these assholes. So these are the current, like... So here, I know for a fact that it's going to be either a 5 or a 13. It's a neutral chance that I can win with just my base skill. I have a 7 or a 17. It's... If I roll low and they roll high, I only have one coin chance. I have one coin toss to win, which is a 50-50 chance. I don't want to risk that 50-50 on a potential loss, right? So, this is where you employ your egos. Egos in this game are not meant to end fights. They're meant to mitigate damage across a fight. If I have you're not doing anything, you are doing... So this person has 3 coins. If they draw an 11 once and I fail, I'm going to lose this. But I don't have access to my ego here. So it's sort of a gamble right now. I need to hit more green nodes in order to have them saved up. And you can see the resources that you have available to employ your egos in this corner over here. Just something to think about when you're building your teams. It's not just about creating synergies within the group's attacks so that they have sort of interplay within one another. It's about generating the node colors that you need in order to perform egos consistently.
내 팔은 뼈에 있었어.
Now, luckily, I generated 3 heads in a row against the enemy. I got a tails after, so I didn't deal the max damage that I would have wanted, but it happens, right? Sometimes the game is just like that. Sky clearing cut. I think... No, that's already adding my 2 damage bonus. So, don't want to risk it, right? Go with my ego pick here. And continue. Slash series versus shelter. Yep. Nope. There we go.
배는 맛은 있는 편이 좋은데.
And again, I didn't generate the head that I would have wanted in order to increase my damage. It's a the coin flipping is definitely like a win more mechanic. Feels nice when you hit your your coin. It doesn't feel bad when you lose the coin. It's just like a you know, I'll get him next time. Okay. You're gonna do your flank thrust, slice stab. So I don't have a slice stab here. You can see that these sections down here are connected. So I know that I can boot Sinclair's skill. And all of a sudden, I have something that can handle the cover. Because this skill, slice then stab, you can see at the top corner, it's neutral. So we have a low, unless I somehow secure that he does a 4 with a low roll, I'm gambling that I'm going to win a neutral fight. You typically want to make sure that your fights are favorable or dominating along those lines. Scattering slash, unprepared, and back.
흉터의 결과요. 나의 손으로 잘라낼 수 있다면 다음번에는 될 수 있겠죠?
역시 모르네.
Look at that, easy peasy. It carries heavy objects without a word. As it does its work, the number on the electronic display seems to up. Sure. Okay, so here are the skill checks within the game. You want to have your units upgraded so they have a number of skills at their disposal, because right here, if I didn't have my flank thrust available, I wouldn't have my envy skill here. If I didn't have my swash skill available, I wouldn't have my gluttony skill here. These both of those moves there, those are tier 3 moves. So right now I can do something like, this is already an 8. I need to get one of these to hit a 1. If I lose any of these coin flips, which is a statistical unlikely possibility, can't happen, I would lose the check here, which is why these two are very high. If I win a head here, I gain a 5, and that meets the 9 threshold that I need, as opposed to the others, because they're not in envy, gluttony, or sloth. They're not within this advantage for the selected, I guess, attribute defining move of the identity. They're having to meet a higher threshold, which is an 18 here. I could potentially generate it with Rodion, but I wouldn't want to risk my character potentially gaining damage that I can't heal consistently for something like that, right? So it incentivizes not just that your team be diverse, it incentivizes you to dedicate a lot of your time and your energy towards uptying as many identities as possible, so you have a wide range of sins to tackle in a given check, which is, I will be honest, it is the insidious part about a gacha game, where the mechanics of the game sort of benefit those that spend the money necessary to acquire these the identities, and then use the ego shards that they'd gain to level up the identities quickly. it is something to keep in mind. I'm not necessarily for gacha games. I am for supporting Project Moon, but just keep that in mind. So I already flipped. Perfect. See?
흉터는 경험이요.
At the start of the battle, inflict 4 tremor with 4 count on all enemies. When dealing damage with an envy skill, inflict 2 tremor on the target. I only have 1 envy skill with Yisang, but this is good. I think that I don't know if I can trigger tremor. So another issue that I have with the game right now is that there's no glossary for you to look at the little like keyword skills that you have available. You could only do it in a fight, and you could only do the keyword lookup. Oh, no, thank you. I'm actually about to, head out of streaming as well, because it's getting late for me as well. I was only planning to stream for like an hour. I can't leave things here. I actually have to go here and or can I? Can I? Okay, so I can save my progress here.
하루가 저물어가는 동안 나는 그저
And then from here, if I wanted to go back, I still have the exploration to conduct, right? I'll probably conduct it in my off time tomorrow. But yeah, this was one of the mirror dungeons. I'm surprised that I didn't get to finish it. I'll probably have to give myself more time to stream within a given window, maybe 2 hours instead of 1. But I thoroughly enjoyed just talking with you, Sir Lynch. I enjoyed getting my thoughts on this game out. I have a lot of thoughts, and I can't really collate all of them together. I script write for a reason, and that's because it's difficult for me to keep things in mind. So thank you everyone who listened and watched through the game and my thoughts, and I hope you have a nice rest of your night.